Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Welcome to our session today. Our session is all about asking a nuclear engineer if you have questions that relate to nuclear energy, and you really want to know more about nuclear energy. So this is the place to be, and I'm excited to have you all here. It's quite a diverse our members in the panel. And my name is Robert Kiptoo, and I'm from Kenya, and I'll be moderating the event. So in our panelists, we have three guys, and here we have Jenifer. She's from Mexico, and she's a risk analyst engineer at Westinghouse Electric Company. And at the middle, we have Dr. Dinara. She's originally from Kazakhstan, and she earned a PhD at the UC Berkeley in the US. And over there, the last, we have Soloman Dennis. He's a nuclear physicist from Nigeria, and we are glad to have you guys. So I'm just going to let you guys give us a little more information about you guys, and then at least 2 minutes, at most 2 minutes, then we'll kick off the discussion. Jenifer.
Thank you very much, Robert, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jenifer Avellaneda, and he just gave a very quick introduction. I'm a risk analyst currently working for Westinghouse Electric Company. I've been doing that for just a couple of years. I still consider myself very young in the industry, and on my free time, I also advocate for nuclear. I'm a huge nuclear energy advocate, and I would love to keep attracting younger generations to this industry because we not only need engineers, we need advocates. We need people very passionate about this industry, and also to help us to fall in love with clean and reliable and safe energy. So that's me.
Hello, my name is Dinara Ermakova. I'm originally from Kazakhstan, where I got my bachelor's. Then I was working in Russia, and then I got my PhD at UC Berkeley in nuclear engineering with a focus on nuclear waste management, energy business, and energy policy. Right now I work in full-time at a nuclear startup, but here I wear a different hat of a nuclear advocate, and that's mostly on my free time. I don't have much, but I try to be very efficient. So I try to promote the task force development, try to promote education in developing countries, and especially with focus of benefits, how nuclear can fit into developing world portfolio of energy, and how can we bring more prosperity to those countries. And that comes from me coming from developing countries such as Kazakhstan, where we have been developing our own grid, and it needs a lot of changes.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity. My name is Soloman Balami. I'm from Nigeria and Africa also. I'm very happy to be here to sit among these great panelists. I'm a nuclear physicist. I am currently a lecturer with the Department of Physics, University of Maiduguri. I'm the current coordinator for the Nigerian Nuclear Network for Education in Science and Technology, University of Maiduguri chapter. We've been doing great works with respect to advocacy, trying to capture the attention of young people into the field of nuclear science and technology. That has been our prime target and interest. We have a lot of collaborators like the Nuclear for Climate, and now we have Net Zero Nuclear. African Young Generation in Nuclear is also coming up strong. We have Nigerian Young Generation in Nuclear also doing their best to see how we spread the good gospel of nuclear. Nigeria only have one research reactor, which is the Nigerian Research Reactor 1. It's a small miniature neutron source reactor with a Chinese design. So it's a small power 34 kilowatts reactor that is not too heavy, and the neutron flux power is very low. But we're doing our best to have a larger multipurpose research reactor as soon as possible for radioisotope production, and possibly small modular reactor going forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. Yeah, so I'm just going to throw a few questions to them. Then towards the end of the session, we'll open the session to all of you guys. If you have any other questions, you might, if you won't cover it in our discussion here, we'll be able to ask them towards the end of the session. So I'm just going to begin, Jenifer. So we're going to dwell into the aspect of safety and innovation. And so we do understand that with the increasing demand of nuclear energy, there's the aspect of safety in our nuclear power plants. And also, in as much as we are trying to focus on the safety aspect, we have also to dwell into the aspect of innovation for the future. So I'd like just to let you give us how you find this information as per your.
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually one of the most questions that I usually get using social media, which is, what about safety? As I can see, it's a pretty popular concern. So as a nuclear risk analyst, I'm used to do a lot of research regarding any possible event and any possible activity that could damage or endanger the normal operability of my reactor. So that way, it is pretty easier for me to communicate to people. And I mean, let's do this a little bit fun and do it simple. Let me just rip the Band-Aid. Nuclear energy is safe. Big news. Nuclear energy is safe. Nothing is different about that. Nothing has changed. There is always, it is always open for enhancement. We also have many history planned, and not only for our plant, but also on an industry basis. We are training all the time. Every 6 months we also have evaluations, and they bring us, we go together along with all of the industry in order to share whatever we have learned from working at the nuclear power station. So regarding safety and innovation, we are always trying to enhance safety. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but while we do this, we always try to make it effective and maintain it that way.
Yeah, it's a good it's a good thing that you cover the safety issues, because it's an important aspect in our industry. People out there are mainly concerned about the safety, and it's good that you gave us a little touch about it. So I'm going to head to Dinara. As someone who's from Kazakhstan, and we all know that Kazakhstan has the largest reserves for uranium, and with the demand of nuclear security, I mean, we need to have reserves so that it can serve us for the long run. So I wonder what you guys from Kazakhstan, I just want to understand your aspect as in how do you see it as we head towards the building more nuclear plants in the future?
Thank you. Excellent question. Well, first of all, Kazakhstan is the biggest producer, but second largest reserve. The way we look at it right now is to provide the robust supply chain. I know that's one of the issues we have in current conditions, is that we don't have HALEU. We have struggling with unexplored mine reserves around the world. And it is hard to establish a robust supply chain and ensure our partners that we can provide at least raw uranium. But at the same time, I think we need to long-term strategy and provide more complete solution in terms of collaborating with other countries that already have enrichment capacities, and maybe build the capacities together. We provide the raw uranium, they enrich it, we then do the fuel, or kind of try to make multilateral agreements rather than selling only resources, because from my perspective, we cannot only sell resources. It's not beneficial for the country. You cannot provide as many work opportunities and engage as many work task force within your country if you're only selling resources. That's my opinion. But at the same time, I think globally we can embrace recycling of fuel. This will also tackle the issue of fuel security, independence in terms of fuel. If the country is able or has a partner that do recycling, like for example France and Japan, Japan ships the spent fuel to France. That brings a lot of flexibility in terms of the question, what about the waste? And then you have the solution, and then at the same time you don't need to mine uranium. You already have mixed fuel that you can put back into into reactor. But I know we will touch more questions on waste, but that's my long-term vision. We cannot really think long-term if we extract raw material over and over again. That's not a good solution for environment, for security, for many other reasons.
Yeah, it's actually important to know that in terms of the energy security, in the nuclear industry, as per the World Nuclear Association, we have a 130 years capacity for nuclear reserves, unlike the likes of oil, which they estimated to be around 50 years, and for natural gas around 53 years, which is almost twice that amount. So in terms of energy security, I think nuclear energy is way, way ahead. So I'm going to go to to Solomon. In the light of the recent COP28 agreement, where 22 nations pledged to triple the nuclear generation capacity by 2050. So I'd like to understand your view on how do you see this commitment influencing the global energy landscape in the coming couple of years. What challenges and opportunities might arise from this ambitious goal? Actually, 2050 is just right behind the corner. And how can international collaborations ensure the safe and sustainability growth of the nuclear energy in meeting the world's increasing demand of energy? Over to you, Carl.
Yeah, thank you very much for this wonderful question. When the pledge was signed, there was a bit of sigh and relief in the nuclear space and sphere. It brought a lot of joy, and you can see everybody smiling. We went to our pavilion, we went to our booth, everybody was really smiling that the responsibility has been taken, and then it is now time for the nuclear industry to really rise once again. So it's a news that has been received graciously, excitedly, and happily. And then going forward, because 30 years, if we close our eyes and open it, we'll be in 2050 from now, right? And then it provides the tripling of the global nuclear energy capacity will really provide a lot of opportunities in the field of nuclear, in the nuclear industry, not just in the nuclear industry, but in policy, right, to open up opportunities, even for those that are not really technically nuclear engineers in the field of nuclear science and technology. There'll be a lot of opportunities for young people to come into the field of nuclear science and technology. There'll be a vast amount of industrialization. When I narrow my attention to the developed countries, developing nations, let me use Nigeria as a perspective. There's something we used to say in Africa: when Nigeria gets it right, Africa gets it right, because there's this perspective that Nigeria is the giant of Africa. So assuming in the next 10 years Nigeria builds its own nuclear power plant, you can imagine the vast amount of industrialization that will take place in Africa, in West Africa, and Africa as a whole. And then exportation will be high. We'll have a lot of investment in the field of agriculture, because Africa has one of the largest arable lands. Okay, so, and then when investment comes in, energy poverty will disappear. There will be high reduction in poverty, crime rates will reduce, and people will be brought out of their challenges, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for young people going forward. So the challenge will be, which I don't consider it a challenge, I consider it an opportunity also. People will really try to see how they fight the thing, you know. They will try to fight the idea, but when they begin to realize that it's very, very good, you know, when nuclear is introduced into the energy mix in any of the developing countries, and then you're having consistent power supply, inflation is reduced, and people's life are being impacted. Right, all these things will just disappear. All the noise, all the myth will just instantly disappear. I was having an advocacy session with someone yesterday. I was trying to tell him about the impact of nuclear energy. We were at Baraka nuclear power plant, and then we were told that it supplies 20-25% of the electricity here in United Arab Emirates. So you can see how impactful it is. So I It's my heart is full of joy when that announcement was made. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Out of the 22 countries that signed the pledge, there are only 2 African countries. And so this brings the aspect of public perception and communication. So I'd like to understand more. I'd like to throw this question to you, Jenifer. The public perception of nuclear energy, it often lags behind specific advancements. And that's why we're here. We're here for the nuclear advocacy. How can the nuclear energy industry effectively communicate the benefits and risk of nuclear energy to the public? Are there specific examples or strategies that have effectively shifted the public perception? Yes, over to you, Jenifer.
Yeah, for sure. I do guess that a good campaign on nuclear energy perspective needs to change and needs to be tackled. Not only by the companies that are currently producing clean and reliable energy with nuclear energy, but also about the people that are currently involved within this industry. And that's why I decided to start using social media in order to communicate what's going on behind the scenes at working at the nuclear power station, right? Because it is very easy, especially for younger generations, to just Google their concerns or Google their questions and find plenty of information that whether or not could be true, whether or not could be coming from someone that somewhat has experience or not at all, and they're just decided to be anti-nuclear, right? So that's why I decided to use social media, and something that I have learned, and it's key to understand their concerns, from someone that it is not sure whether or not nuclear energy is safe or not, is that they do have valid questions, they do have valid concerns, and it's very important for us, people with experience or people working at the nuclear energy industry, to actually approach them, give the importance that their questions and concerns deserve, and then start giving them the information that they are asking. It's not like, hey, isn't it going to actually explode? Is it possible to have an explosion? What about Chernobyl? What about Fukushima? Well, let me tell you, I am actually someone with experience, and any concern that you have, please let me know, and I can make sure to explain anything as easy and understandable according to your needs. And come on, please tell your friends, bring them on. I can do videos, I can do it in English, I can do it in Spanish. And as I always say, I am not an expert, but I am someone with experience, and I would be happy to share that. And also, I'd like to share, we recently, as a team, part of the net zero nuclear, we had an incredible visit at the Baraka nuclear power station, which is the first in the Arab world. 3 operator nuclear reactors, and the 4th, which is actually coming online, which will be providing 25% of the electricity of this incredible country, all right? And something that I learned from them, and I also wanted to share not only with everyone here present at the panel, but that is actually involved in the nuclear energy industry internationally, not only nationally, is that people here feel extremely proud of what they are done, extremely proud of having that incredible project coming to life. And I would love the nuclear energy industry overall to feel that way, to feel proud, to actually be considered and actually working at the nuclear power station, producing safe, reliable, and 24/7 clean energy. So yeah, public perception needs to change, and that's what I'm trying to do with social media.
Yeah, so she's actually good at social media. If you guys go onto Twitter, currently known as X, you can search her via Nuclear Hazelnut here. She's really quite good at it. Yeah, so if you happen to have noticed, we are net zero. So I'm just going to throw a question to Dinara, something to do with the role of nuclear in decarbonization. And so as you're grappling the effects of the climate change, what role do you see nuclear energy playing in decarbonizing the energy sector? Do you think there are any specific policy initiatives or technological advancement that could accelerate the integration of nuclear power into the global efforts to combat the current crisis of climate change?
That's an excellent question. And yesterday we actually had a panel about the financing or alternative financing in nuclear. And one of the speakers, she shared that we have lessons learned from failed projects, and 80% of nuclear power plant failed projects actually failed because of the financing. It was not secured. It was something that fell through because of the price on gas went too cheap, and so it was not profitable to finance nuclear projects. So I think in any project, in any initiative, money play a big role. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And so securing financial stability of the projects, making agreements that companies will not fall through because the market conditions change or political conditions change, that will secure such a long projects like nuclear, because it takes a decade to build a large reactor of 1 gigawatt scale. And just thinking about how much may change within 10 years. Like, we have governments changing every 5 years, 6 years. And here we have power plant that very tied to political situation. So those two parts have to be very secured. And second of course, as Jenifer covered very well, the public perception needs to be supportive of nuclear. And public has to trust their government, because in many countries, public doesn't trust the government, and that leads to cancellation of the projects, that leads to opposition of the projects. Like in the United States, unfortunately, we have the case of Yucca Mountain. That was a big project to dispose nuclear waste. Unfortunately, public did not agree. There was a lot of political issues, and that's a multi-billion project that didn't go through. When we talk about large-scale reactors, especially in developing countries, we need even more security, because, again, yesterday we discussed how much insecurity we have in terms of risks related to building something in developing countries, right? We have currency that's inflating every year. That depends on many factors. We have a workforce that's not being developed accordingly, or like we're lagging behind on developing task force that also takes years to build. There are so many moving parts, and because of that, we need to think about changes in policy within the country, changing on some of the educational part, and bringing more collaboration between countries, because existing nuclear countries that already have nuclear fleets, they have so much to offer to newcomers in terms of education. So instead of building the new department, let's say in Nigeria, we can send a lot of students to UK or France or Russia. Well, not currently probably, but talking just wildly thinking about the United States. There are so many opportunities. We already can start building the task force. We already can start building the people who will be working in the policy sector and will understand how the energy systems work, and what will be the limitations if we go straight from carbon to renewables. There are some limitations to that, and especially in developing countries where you don't have robust grid, you're not really decarbonizing anything. You just have to build something from scratch, and it has to be robust because it will be powering hospitals, education, like universities, schools, every house is fridge. So those basic needs, and on top of that, you can think about, we might build more renewables and other solutions, but first, the grid has to be very, very robust to many climate changes, to political changes. So I think this is what needs to be taken into account. So I'm not going to take more time.
Yeah. Earlier on, Dr. Dinara, you mentioned the aspect of developing the aspect of a closed fuel cycle. So where we tend to recycle our nuclear waste and use them as fuel once again. So I'm just going to ask Solomon about the aspect of nuclear waste management. So this is an area where many people are so concerned about this industry, about this waste management. So it remains really a significant concern to people out there. And I just want you to ask, to throw this question to you. What are the most promising developments in the nuclear waste management? And how can we address these public apprehensions surrounding the long-term storage and the final disposal of the nuclear waste? Over to you, Solomon.
Thank you very much for this concerning question. It's really a concerning question because with every technology, there's definitely waste. Even if you are looking at renewable, looking at solar, looking at wind, there's definitely waste. But with nuclear, people's perception is that it's the half-life. It takes a very long time for these radioactive isotopes to reach its own half-life, and then the system of storage that we use for a very long time is something that people are always asking questions about. But scientifically, and there are innovations that have been put in place. We have the dry storage cask system. We also are looking at the geological deep repository method, like what Dr. Dinara mentioned. But policy and policy makers have really politicized the whole issue. But in the R&D sector, the research and development, nuclear physicists and nuclear scientists are doing their best to see how we store these nuclear waste materials for a very, very long time. The system of dry casks method has been very successful. Countries have dried it, and it's been very, very successful for going forward. And then the promising technologies, like I mentioned, like the dry cask system, and then the public concern. I think education is very important. Educating people about the nuclear waste management systems is very important. Talking to them that these things are not harmful. You can actually touch the dry casks and then it's not going to affect you. I saw an image of a woman that, well, I don't know whether it's an image that she should put on social media, but she was pregnant and then she put her tummy close to the dry cask system. And then, but it's actually very, very safe. There's no harm, there's no hazard, and you can use it. And then the closed forced cycle system, where you can reuse the spent fuel, and then as energy in the nuclear reactor, is also a viable system that we can look at in the nuclear industry. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you.
I would like to add to the waste issue, because I think there is a lot of misconception about what is a waste. First of all, people imagine that nuclear waste is some sort of liquid sludge that's kind of leaking all around, green, goofy. Because I guess that's something that Simpsons cartoons showed. And in fact, nuclear spent fuel is solid form. It's not something that's going to leak. And then we vitrify it or convert it to glass. And if we put it down below under, like, we put rock under rock, and those things, I think we didn't communicate well as an industry. We didn't communicate this well during, I don't know, physics class. Like, we have nuclear physics classes at the end of high school, but at the same time, most of the kids don't understand what is the fuel form of nuclear power plant and how is it stored. So I think those are misconceptions that we need to cover still and implement it into study program, because that's also, we know so much about coal, we know so much about solar, wind, we discuss it so much, and we imagine how nice the world will be to replace the coal with solar and wind, but at the same time we spent so little time in terms of discussing nuclear. We spent way too much time on criticizing it, but at the same time, if we don't know enough, we cannot really criticize. It's just like, why do we talk about waste if we don't know enough about this? So that's my comment. We can go further.
Right. So I'm going to open the discussion to members of our attendees. So if maybe one of you guys has a question and would like to raise it to our panelists, you can. It's now your turn. Maybe you can have the microphone to you. And
I just want to mention that, remember, your questions are important. Your concern is important and is totally valid. So I think we have a question here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this panel. My question is about uranium mining. So not many people understand how it's done and the effects on the environment. Could you comment on this for me? I'll
start here. No, that's a very valid point, and I have I understand the historic perspective. In the United States and Kazakhstan, it's been mined using open pit mining method, and that caused a lot of problems in tribal reservations or tribal lands in the United States. So that's a historical trauma that we still carry as an industry as well. But modern ways of extracting uranium actually don't involve the digging necessarily. So we use in situ leaching method. That's basically injecting solutions and extracting it from the other side of the well, uranium oxide or other forms. So it doesn't necessarily disturb the environment as much as it used to be. So I think that's also part that's not being communicated well, because in situ leaching has been used for quite a while, and that's primarily the method is used in Kazakhstan right now.
Yeah, so any other question within the audience?
Hello, thank you to the panel. I'm from Australia, where we don't have any nuclear energy. One of the things that is talked about in that context is where would you put a nuclear reactor? How do you site it? What's the requirements for, say, water for cooling?
Yeah, of course. Talking from a safety and risk analysis perspective, we can actually build a nuclear power plant almost everywhere. There is, we already have a certain type of guidelines, a certain type of industry rules or industry advice that we should totally follow. For example, every nuclear power station already producing clean and reliable electricity, 24/7, by the way. It is possible to held a seismic event, for example, a fire event, internal, could be external, a flood, even a flood. We learned a lot from Fukushima, again, talking about industry history. And yeah, almost everywhere. Long story short, to your answer to your question, everywhere.
In addition.
Let me add a bit to that question. The nuclear industry has come a long way. We've learned from our past mistakes, and we've seen innovations have come into the field of nuclear science and technology. So we can build a nuclear power plant almost everywhere. So with the systems, and then International Atomic Energy Agency have a lot of publications with respect to best practices, all right, international collaborations, international relationship, bilateral agreement will really strengthen that, and then you can do that almost very easily. Yeah.
I will also add to that, because nuclear industry doesn't stay still, and there are so many innovations in terms of new reactor designs and the power conversion systems using not water anymore, but let's say air cooling. So depending on the site, depending on the area, if you don't have access to water, you can cool it with the air. Or in case of, in the United States, we have power plant that uses wastewater. That's something that, like, not many people appreciate, but we can use the water coming from this city that's been used already, and we can clean it and use it and put it back into nuclear power plant for cooling purposes. So there are solutions. We're not staying still. We innovate as much as possible as any other industry.
Right, so I'm going. We'll have him then. Yeah.
Hello panel, thanks for all the wonderful insights. I have one question in terms of how do we tackle the demand and supply, like in terms of reactors or availability of nuclear power. Some countries would be having abundance in power, but then there would be some countries where, as she mentioned, there are no reactors at all. So how do we balance the global demand and supply in terms of power availability?
It's always better to have more energy than less energy, because you can export your excess. This is what we could see in France when they have excess nuclear energy, nuclear electrons coming. They can sell it to neighbor countries or as far as Germany, actually. When we project the supply demand, I mean, there are so many models predicting, okay, this is the projection of population growth, and this is how we would see that every house has as many kilowatt hour requirement, and then you project, of course, this is what it's going to look like in 2050. Of course, there's models, but you can project more or less what you want to see and how, in terms of robust energy portfolio, energy system portfolio, and what share of a base load there you want to see to not have like blackouts.
Yeah, I think there's what is called energy storage system where energy can also be stored for some time in case there's any blackout. So you can also channel that to the grid. Okay, so it's better, like she said, to have excess amount of energy than lower amount of energy.
So
Thank
we're
you.
going to take 2 more questions. We'll have one here, and then I think we'll finalize on him over there.
Hi, good afternoon. This might be a very basic question, but I just want to ask, like, what is currently the contribution of nuclear energy to the total renewables space? Means in terms of percentage, how much is nuclear energy contributing, and what's the outlook for the future? I mean, if share something on this.
Respect to statistics.
Yeah, I mean, like, nuclear energy is a part of renewable energy, right? So how much is it contributing to the total renewable energy? You know, for example, you have different sources of renewable energy,
Yes.
solar, etc. So
Yes.
what is the contribution of nuclear in that to the total renewables?
Yeah, nuclear is has a very strong base load, right? And then it has a very large contribution with respect to the total energy. But I'm not too sure I have the statistics off my head. I don't know whether you do. You do?
So it is my understanding so far that the contribution globally of nuclear power to our world is about 10%, as we were discussing. And I don't know if you're familiar with the latest news, but recently, at the beginning of this COP, it was pledged by over 20 different countries to triple the contribution of nuclear power by 2050. So I think that those are incredible news. Can you imagine probably the 30%, of course, even more of our electricity power being sourced by clean, safe, and reliable energy that is actually being produced 24/7? And well, let's not even start talking about how many employees a single nuclear power plant can have, right? But that is among one of the many benefits that nuclear power have right now.
So we're going to take 1 more question from him, then we can close.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. You know this, now the nuclear is taking advantage of reduction of CO2. That's correct? Everybody now is marketing nuclear because of the CO2. But from safety point of view, safety, because nuclear is required safety. And also, according to my statistic, by 2050, solar is going up and nuclear going down. Is that correct?
That's very dependent on projections, on policies as well, because today this week we had this pledge, but week before we didn't. All these projections are very dependent on current political situation, on the pledges and the policy commitments of every countries. So we don't know what's going to happen in 2050 until it's happened. But projections will be different after the COP ends, and we will have new data coming about the projections for 2050.
Okay. How about safety? Safety, now you are...
I'm the one expert
You
in
are
safety.
French? You are French?
No, I am Mexican actually.
Yeah, because the French who is the one who is marketing nuclear.
Yeah, that's for sure. But also
Opposite Germany. Germany is going for renewable from solar and wind.
I'm pretty sure that hopefully Germany will very soon decide to restart their reactors again to contribute to this amazing pledge. But I just wanted to add something regarding to your initial question, is that there is also very important need for us to have diversity. So what would happen if the sun is not up or if the wind is not blowing? That's when also nuclear energy enters. And that is totally valid. We have also, and we can talk later on this further, but we have modeled almost every type of event whether or not it's an accident or human-made, using a methodology called probabilistic risk assessment engineer, which is what I currently use in order to try to analyze what could happen if an event tries to damage the normal operation of my reactor, and how can I mitigate it? So that way I can step up ahead, and in case that happens, I know, or all of the employees of the plant knows how to approach it, how to solve it, and how to mitigate it. So as for safety, we are always enhancing it while keeping our efficiency of our nuclear power plants.
Thank you very much for your question. Just a few second addition. I think we need to separate science from politics. Scientifically, it's a fact that we need nuclear. As far as going to net zero by 2050 is concerned, or 2030 is concerned, we need nuclear as the cleanest form of energy. But when we bring politics into the variable, of course, we can swing left and right and go here and there. But scientific fact is we need nuclear energy. It's very, very important, and it's totally indispensable. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's important to know that the fact and also what he raised there, that we are taking advantage of the current climate crisis and market ourselves as net zero. We are not actually taking advantage of it. It's the reality. It's reality that our nuclear power plants, they don't emit any carbon when they are actually generating electricity. And we just happen to generate the CO2 when we are maybe mining, maybe when we are building the nuclear power plant, but in the process of generating electricity, we don't actually generate any CO2. And we are going to end the session there, and I would like to thank our attendees for participating in the conversation, and furthermore, we'd like to thank our panelists, Soloman, Dr. Dinara, and Jenifer. And we are looking forward to having more of these conversations in the future. You can actually check our sessions on the screens over here as you will be moving around. Yeah, and it's good to have you guys, and looking forward to seeing you around. Thank you.